first and foremost, it just revealed the kind of character that we have. The toughness, the relentless spirit.
Is the Indiana Fever's idyllic season already devolving into a nightmare? A startling allegation that coach Stephanie White is about to make a choice so extreme and contentious that it might send shockwaves through the whole league is ripping through the sports world only weeks into the most anticipated WNBA season in history. The target is none other than their talented rookie, Caitlin Clark, along with important members of her supporting cast like Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham. The whispers have grown into roars following a demoralizing loss to the Dallas Wings. Everyone is wondering not only whether she will do it, but also what will happen to the WNBA and the Fever if she does. A golden age of sold-out arenas, record-breaking viewership, and the Indiana Fever's return to championship contention was the promise of the Caitlin Clark era. The transition from collegiate legend to professional winner is a dangerous one, and the bright lights of success can cast some very dark shadows, something that no one wanted to acknowledge. It all began with a game that was meant to be another step forward but turned into a huge setback, a public collapse that might have compelled the coach to take action. The game versus the Dallas Wings, which was shown live for everyone to witness, was a complete and utter system breakdown rather than merely a scheduled loss. The Fever appeared to be fully overwhelmed, outmatched, and outthrust from the first tip. Eric Ogunbol, a seasoned veteran determined to give the novices a harsh lesson, played like a woman possessed. She continuously targeted Indiana's defense, which appeared to give up easily at the rim, rotate late, and miss assignments as a result of the pressure. However, Caitlin Clark's performance was the actual drama, with cameras focusing on the bench and experts analyzing every tiny reaction. She continued to score points, demonstrating her unquestionable skill, but she also repeatedly coughed up the ball. These weren't just aggressive errors. They were also thoughtless dribbles that were stripped away in the open court and telegraphed passes that were easily picked off. Her team's and the home crowd's vitality was drained by each turnover, which felt more depressing than the last. Not only could you see the growing frustration on Clark's face, but you could also see it on the expressions of her teammates and, most significantly, may destroy their entire season as the players left the floor with their heads down. However, that devastating loss was just the beginning of the tale, the spark that ignited the fuse. The post-game news conference was where the true bombshell was revealed. These times are frequently used by coaches to lessen the blow, discuss lessons learned, move on, and shield their players from criticism. Stephanie White took the opposite action. With a look that could freeze fire, she approached the microphone and issued a warning to her entire crew. Her statements were like laser-guided rockets aiming right at the center of the starting lineup. She didn't need to mention names. She was clearly and brutally frustrated when she talked about the urgent need for accountability and how some players need to quickly understand what it takes to win at this level. Reporters in the room observed that her tone was angry, the kind of restrained wrath that precedes a storm, rather than just disappointed. She emphasized that no amount of skill can compensate for basic errors and a lack of focus, speaking of an abhorrent lack of discipline and a total failure to carry out a basic game plan. This was a clear jab at the careless play that had afflicted her team, particularly the high turnover rate that had turned into their weakness and caused them to bleed to death. Analysts and insiders started deciphering her message right away, and the conclusion was unavoidable. She was threatening to upend everything in the most dramatic way imaginable. This was a coach drawing were over. The days of putting up with thoughtless, stupid errors were over. Regardless of their name, draft position, or commercial appeal, Stephanie White was indicating that playtime was over and that if her starters were unable to do the task, she would find a combination of players who could. The press conference was a declaration of war on mediocrity, and what followed would send the rumor mill into an uncontrollable overdrive. This led directly to the most unthinkable speculation of all, a possibility so radical it felt like a fantasy sports headline come to life. Stephanie White could actually bench Caitlin Clark. She practically dared the media to read between the lines, hinting that championship habits aren't built on highlight reels and that you can't talk about winning until you stop giving games away. Take a moment to consider that. The face of the league, the generational talent who is solely credited with revitalizing and revolutionizing interest in the WNBA, might be sent to the sidelines to begin a game and made to watch from the bench. This is the ultimate choice in the realm of athletics. A coach's ultimate power move is to bench a star player, especially one of Clark's caliber, sending a hard and unmistakable message to the entire company that the team is superior to any individual. For Clark, it would be an unprecedented public humiliation and a direct threat to the Messiah-like reputation she has maintained since her undergraduate days. However, for a coach like Stephanie White, it might be viewed as an unpleasant but necessary procedure to save the patient. Turnovers have been a recurring issue that has caused games to be lost. Her errors are costing the team possessions and, eventually, games, despite her amazing offensive production and ability to bend defenses. A brief, severe setback, such as being benched, might serve as the wake-up call she needs to finally adapt her game to the professional level and realize that the high-risk, high-reward plays that worked against college-level opponents are frequently deadly bets against the world's finest players. However, the concept itself carries unthinkable risk. Clark is more than a mere athlete. She is the league's one-woman stimulus package and economic powerhouse. Every game she participates in sells out arenas and generates previously unimaginable television ratings. Millions of new fans may view benching her, even for the first 5 minutes of a game, as a betrayal, and the front management of the team may have made a commercially disastrous choice. This battle between two opposing forces is the main conflict Stephanie White is dealing with. Is she in charge of a basketball team's wins and losses as its coach? Or is she in charge of TV deals and ticket sales as the guardian of a worldwide brand? Her anger at the press conference implies that she is only thinking about the former. She is aware that the Caitlin Clark hype train will eventually run out of steam if the team continues to lose. In professional sports, winning is the only currency that really counts. Therefore, she might be prepared to take a chance on a brief media frenzy and a significant public backlash in order to create a long-term winner. Clark is not the end of the alleged shuffle. With players like Lexie Hull and even All-Star center Aaliyah Boston being thrown into the fire, it is really anticipated that its tentacles would extend far into the starting lineup. This implies that White believes the lack of cohesiveness and defensive identity among the starting unit as a whole, rather than just one player's rookie difficulties, is the issue. Lexie Hull has occasionally had trouble containing the league's dynamic guards, despite frequently being assigned the vital defensive duty of protecting the opponent's top perimeter player. Although she is a tough player, has she been a bit slow when it comes to rotations? In crucial situations, has she been beaten off the dribble too easily? The coaching team is definitely asking these kinds of inquiries. When she isn't making her shots, she might be a problem because to her uneven offensive output. But what's really startling and illustrates the severity of the situation is the mention of Aaliyah Boston in these rumors. Before Clark, the current Rookie of the Year and the team's future, joined, Boston was without a doubt the team's cornerstone. It was anticipated that Boston's inside domination and Clark's perimeter prowess would form the league's most formidable combination, an inside-out force that would intimidate opponents for the ensuing 10 years. But the connection on the court has been a clumsy, difficult process. Her offensive touches have drastically decreased in Boston. In an offense that is now solely focused on Clark's high volume, she frequently appears as a secondary option or even an afterthought. On-ball manner. Is she absent from the role, Clark? Does Boston not get the ball where she wants it on the block? The rest of the team receives a terrifying message if Boston is benched or even if the possibility is openly discussed. Nobody is secure. No prior achievement, no all-star performance, and no draft position can shield you. In a frantic attempt to find a lineup that truly works together rather than just looks beautiful on a billboard, it suggests that Stephanie White is prepared to totally deconstruct the current structure and discard all preconceived notions. This is about a desperate, frenzied search for a winning formula, not about punishing specific people. Additionally, it appears like White is prepared to put all of the variables in a blender to see what happens. Behind the scenes, away from the cameras and microphones, the Dream Team is beginning to resemble a group of gifted strangers who just so happen to be wearing the same uniform. The issue is potentially explosive and considerably more complex. Sources close to the squad are whispering more and more that the locker room is a pressure cooker of silent dissatisfaction and unsaid stress. This is not shocking. There will inevitably be growing pains when you bring in a superstar like Caitlin Clark, who has her own gravitational pull, to an already existing team dynamic. Veteran players are abruptly and unceremoniously cast in supporting roles after battling for years to secure their position and giving their all for the team. The all-consuming media frenzy surrounding one rookie overshadows their leadership, contributions, and very presence. Even though the players have been well-behaved in public, saying the appropriate things and grinning for the cameras, their body language on the court sometimes conveys a different, more truthful message. A modest eye roll after a failed throw, a miscommunication that results in a disappointed shrug. These minor, transient divisions may indicate more serious problems with a team that isn't yet in agreement. Does Clark's unheard-of endorsement deals and the ongoing media attention that disregards the rest of the squad cause resentment? Is a player like Aaliyah Boston, who went from being the one, deeply frustrated? However, for a coach like Stephanie White, it might arenas and generates previously unimaginable television ratings. Millions of new fans may view benching her, even for the first 5 minutes of a game, as a betrayal, and the front management of the team may have made a commercially disastrous choice. This battle between two opposing forces is the main conflict Stephanie White is dealing with. Is she in charge of a basketball team's wins and losses as its coach? Or is she in charge of TV deals and ticket sales as the guardian of a worldwide brand? Her anger at the press conference implies that she is only thinking of